Hello, everybody. My name is Morlan Higgins. I'm an actor and a friend of John Walcutt's. John and I met doing a very strange play by Carol Churchill called The Mad Forest at the Matrix Theater in Los Angeles years ago. And a couple of summers ago, he called me up out of the blue and asked me if I would be interested in coming down to Shakespeare, Orange County, and playing Caliban in The Tempest, which I did, and it was a blast. And to be on stage with Harry Groner again, and with John, and all the others, it was a fantastic experience. And I'm very appreciative. And now he's asked me to say a few things about Shakespeare, even though I think he knows I'm not a classically trained actor. I never had, movement classes and diction classes and etc. And I don't know how to scan the dialogue for its poetry or anything like that. I rely on really experienced people around me to help me with things like that when I need that help. But I think it's more important, certainly to me, the way I approach it, to understand what you're saying without all of those considerations involved. Just what is the thought process of the character as the character is saying what he's saying, he, she. Why does the character choose to say that? Now, this is especially important to me, especially in a soliloquy, because those are basically the character's thoughts spoken out loud. And in order for the story that you are a part of to ring as true as possible, with as much clarity as possible, you need to understand what your character is saying at the speed of thought without all of those other considerations. So I would encourage you, when you first approach a role, a Shakespearean role anyway, well, pretty much any role for me, you sit with the dialogue, read it very slowly and carefully in terms of its relation to the story overall and what it means and why is that scene in the play, all of those things. But most importantly, to understand the character's thought process. Because when we converse, we don't know exactly what we're going to say until it comes out of our mouth half the time. It's a response to a thought. So, at the speed of thought, that's the way I like to approach it. So, I'm not going to do a Caliban speech. I'm going to do To Be or Not to Be, because everyone's pretty familiar with that. And I'm pretty familiar with that. I did a play called Exits and Entrances, in which I played an aging actor at the end of his career. And at the end of the play, sitting in his dressing room with a friend, after his last performance, he starts talking about the To Be or Not to Be speech. And he starts it this way. And, it was written by the South African playwright Ethel Fugard. So if I dip a little bit into a South African accent, try to ignore it. It's just habit. I did it over 300 times. But he says, at the start of it, he's talking about a writer friend of his, Eugene Marais. He says, Marais was so right. To be or not to be is not a literary conceit. It's a real question. Is it nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep, to sleep, to dream. Aye, there's the rub. in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. There's a respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin. Who would fartles bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will, makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others we know not of. And thus conscience does make cowards of us all. And thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied o'er with the pale cast of thought. Enterprises of great pitch and moment. For this regard, their currents turn awry and lose the name of action. Now, if you did it that way in an audition, they probably wouldn't let you finish. And they would say, thank you very much, and then usher you out as quickly as possible. That's not the point. The point is to understand it in such a way that it follows a logical thought process to you. A thought process that makes sense within the story. And that way you hopefully will not find yourself on stage like a parrot on a pirate's shoulder calling for a cracker, saying things out of rote, remembering it. It's crazy. Because you see, I don't believe that acting is a craft. I believe it's an art. And the artist expresses what that individual artist can only express, because they are the only them. They are the only one who are them. Everyone's different. So you have to understand it. We are interested in a certain way in Shakespeare's brilliant words. But when we're watching a play, we're far more interested in seeing your innermost secrets revealed, in seeing how your mind works. Anyway, sorry, I rambled. Have a great day.